Welcome to this deep dive. We're going to be diving into Antaral Ki Lehren by Janendra Kumar.
Okay.
It's this, really interesting collection of short stories that kind of take us through all these different facets of human nature and how we build societies and, all the complexities that go with that.
Right.
And we're going to be using the book itself as a source. We've got some really interesting critical interpretations of it.
Yeah.
And then even like philosophical discussions that this book has kind of sparked. So we can really ride those waves of the inner self, which is what Antaral Ki Lehren means.
Okay.
And see what kind of profound insights we can get about ourselves and the world around us.
Yeah, and I think what's so interesting about Kumar's work is he uses this backdrop of a civilization that's like hyper advanced, right? But it's precisely within that context that he kind of explores all of these anxieties and struggles that I think we can all relate to on a very deep, almost like primal level.
Right.
It makes you question this whole idea of progress. Like, are we really advancing as a society? Are we moving towards some sort of inner peace or societal harmony just because our technology is, leaps and bounds ahead of maybe where it was before?
It's like that feeling when you get the latest gadget.
Yeah.
And you think, oh, this is going to solve all my problems.
Right.
And then, a week later, you're like, well, I've still got all this other stuff I'm dealing with.
Exactly.
And Kumar really throws those traditional notions of progress out the window with this story of Rick. So imagine this. You meet Rick, seems like a pretty normal guy, but every few minutes, boom, his memory resets. He forgets everything. How would you even react to that?
I mean, it's easy to kind of label someone like that as Pagal, as they do in the book, right?
Right.
But I think, his condition, whether it's, real or imagined, kind of forces us to confront a fear that I think, a lot of us have, which is just this fragility of our own identities. We build so much of our lives on these memories and experiences and shared narratives.
Right.
And, Rick's very existence throws a wrench in that. It's well, if someone could just lose their entire past in an instant.
Yeah.
What does that say about the solidity of our own sense of self, right?
Yeah.
And even more so, how do we as a society approach someone who just challenges those fundamental assumptions about, who we are?
It's like Kumar is holding a mirror up to these characters and saying, what happens when somebody doesn't fit into your neat little box of what you consider normal?
Exactly.
But it's not just memory and identity that he's tackling, right? There's this other really vivid scene where one of the characters comes face to face with this strange, almost inexplicable entity that Kumar calls Antaral.
Antaral.
And it's like this embodiment of all the anxieties, the uncertainties that we all kind of carry within us.
Yeah, and I think this encounter with Antaral is where the book really, it grabs you, right? Because I think Kumar is acknowledging something really profound here, which is that despite all of our advancements, we still haven't even scratched the surface of understanding our own minds, right?
Right.
So the Antaral, to me, represents that uncharted territory within us, those unseen forces that, they influence our thoughts, they influence our emotions, our choices, but we don't always have a grasp on them.
It's like when you look out at the ocean and it's dark, you can't see anything, but how deep it goes.
Right.
And it's there's that awe, but also that little bit of fear.
Exactly.
And that's Antaral. And to kind of navigate all of this, Kumar introduces us to these characters who are grappling with all sorts of different belief systems. I mean, you've got religious doctrines, political ideologies, you name it.
Right.
And they're all kind of wrestling with how these beliefs shape not only their own actions, but also how they interact with other people.
Well, and this exploration of belief systems is so crucial, right? Because they really act as these lenses through which these characters interpret this very concept of progress.
Oh, interesting.
Right. So for some, progress might be purely about technological advancement. For others, it might be about spiritual enlightenment. For others, it's about, societal harmony.
Right.
And so you have these differing interpretations that inevitably lead to conflict, misunderstanding, and ultimately, I think, those anxieties that Antaral kind of embodies.
So it's we all have our own internal compass that's guiding us.
Yes.
But what happens when those compasses are all pointing in different directions?
Exactly.
And Kumar does not shy away from those clashes.
No, he doesn't.
And you see that most explicitly in these philosophical dialogues that he kind of sprinkles throughout all these different stories.
And these dialogues are not just intellectual exercises, right? They're really invitations for the reader to participate in these age-old debates.
Okay.
So Kumar is not, I think, trying to offer, like, easy answers here.
Right.
He's prompting us to think critically, to challenge our own assumptions, and ultimately to kind of form our own conclusions about progress, about individuality, about what it means to navigate a world where, those compasses are constantly spinning.
Mm-hmm. Right. And you know where this gets really interesting is how these anxieties, they often kind of manifest in the dreams of Kumar's characters.
Oh. You know that feeling when you wake up from a weird dream and, like, your heart's racing, you're trying to make sense of these bizarre, often kind of unsettling images.
Totally.
Kumar takes that and, like, amplifies it, using dreams as this portal into, like, the deepest recesses of his characters' minds.
So it's like those dreams aren't just like random neurons firing. They're like these coded messages from the Antaral.
Exactly. They tap into those anxieties, those hidden desires that we often, like, ignore in our waking lives.
Oh, wow.
Right? Think about a time you had a really vivid dream. Did it, like, reflect something you were consciously grappling with, or did it reveal something, like, deeper, something you hadn't even admitted to yourself? Kumar's characters are experiencing those same kind of unsettling revelations through their dreams.
Oh.
They're forced to confront those hidden truths, and it often leads them to make, like, pretty major life decisions.
Like in Centauri, where the guard is having these dreams about being lost in this endless labyrinthine city.
Right, which mirrors his own sense of being trapped within the very society he's supposed to be protecting, right?
It's so trippy.
Yeah, and it pushes him to question, like, everything, his purpose, his beliefs, like, where does he even fit into all of this?
It's heavy stuff.
And that's where Kumar's genius, I think, really shines through, right? Because he doesn't just present these characters as, like, victims of circumstance or societal pressure. He shows how even within these, like, rigid structures, there's still that capacity for individual action, for rebellion, for, like, carving out your own path.
There's this one line that really stuck with me. It's like, even a single wave can reshape the shoreline.
Ooh, I like that.
And it just speaks to that power we all have, no matter how small or insignificant we might feel, to, like, create change.
That's that ripple effect. Right?
Yes. Yeah. Even if it's just a ripple, like, our actions have consequences.
Absolutely. Think about it. Even the smallest act of kindness, a moment of courage, a decision to just, like, deviate from the norm, it creates a ripple, And Kumar's characters, some more successfully than others, are trying to tap into that power.
Okay.
To kind of break free from the mold, to find their own unique way of riding those waves of Antaral.
And that brings us back to this whole idea of Antaral as not just a source of anxiety, but also this, like, wellspring of creativity, individuality.
Right. It's like by acknowledging those, like, unseen forces within us, we actually unlock a deeper level of self-awareness.
Oh, okay.
And from that, we can find the strength to challenge the status quo, to, like, push back against those forces that are trying to confine us.
And one of the ways Kumar explores this is through, like, the power of dialogue.
Yes.
You see these characters constantly engaging in these, like, really intense, sometimes heated conversations.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like those late night philosophical debates you have with friends.
Yeah, where you're, like, challenging each other, dissecting ideas, and sometimes you walk away with more questions than answers.
Totally.
But those conversations, they stick with you.
I do. They really do.
And that's what Kumar does so well, I think.
Okay.
His dialogues are more than just conversations. They're like intellectual boxing matches.
Ooh, I like that.
He pits these characters with opposing viewpoints against each other, forcing them, and I think the reader by extension, to confront these uncomfortable truths and wrestle with these big, existential questions.
Right. And it's interesting because even when you have these characters who seem like they're worlds apart in their beliefs and their experiences, they still find that common ground.
They do.
They're all searching for something, meaning, connection, a sense of belonging.
Yeah, and it's a good reminder that despite all our differences, right?
Yeah.
There's this shared humanity that binds us. And maybe, just maybe, by engaging in those difficult conversations, by truly listening to each other, we can start to bridge some of those divides and, build a more compassionate and understanding world. Even amidst all the anxieties of Antaral, there's hope.
I like that.
Right.
So we can't talk about Antaral Ki Lehren without talking about how critics have responded to it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And it's been really interesting. Some critics have absolutely loved it.
Oh, yeah. They've praised its boldness, the way it tackles these, like, big societal issues, its philosophical depth.
But then there are others who just, like, didn't connect with it at all.
Yeah, and I think that's a testament to the power of Kumar's work,
Oh, okay.
that it can elicit such diverse reactions.
That's true.
Some critics found it too abstract, too ambiguous, like they wanted clear-cut answers, resolutions.
Right.
But that's not what Kumar's going for, is it?
No. And I think that's what makes it so thought-provoking.
Right.
It's not about spoon-feeding you a specific ideology or worldview.
Hmm.
It's about presenting you with possibilities, with different lenses to view the world through.
Yeah, and then it's up to you to decide what resonates, what challenges you, what makes you uncomfortable.
Exactly.
One of the main critiques, though, was that open-endedness. Like, there's no neat resolution, no tidy bow tying everything up at the end.
Right.
And for some readers, that was frustrating.
It's like when you walk out of a movie
Yeah.
and it just stays with you for days. You're
Yeah.
thinking about it. You're debating the ending with your friends. You're like filling in the gaps with your own interpretations.
Exactly. Kumar's ending, or lack thereof, does that.
It does, yeah.
It forces you to continue the conversation, to grapple with those unanswered questions long after you've, turned that last page.
Yeah. And there was one passage that really sparked a lot of debate.
Okay, which one?
It was from Centauri, where a character says, "We built walls to keep the world out, only to discover we'd trapped ourselves within."
Ooh, yeah, that's a powerful image.
It's so relevant, especially today, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Like we build up these walls, physical walls, emotional walls, ideological walls, thinking we're protecting ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
But often those walls just end up isolating us.
Right, they prevent us from experiencing, like, genuine connection with each other.
Yeah, and that sense of isolation, that like yearning for connection.
It's a recurring theme throughout the book, isn't it?
It is.
Even in this technologically advanced society that Kumar creates,
Yeah.
where people are seemingly more connected than ever,
Right.
there's still this undercurrent of loneliness, of alienation.
It's like we have all the tools to connect.
Right, all the tools.
But we've forgotten how to actually see each other, how to be present, how to build those meaningful relationships that go beyond just the surface level stuff.
And another passage that critics often point to is from Rajdut,
Okay.
where a character says, "We've conquered the stars, but we've lost the ability to dream."
Whoa.
Like, it speaks to this idea that in our pursuit of progress, of conquering the external world, we've neglected our inner landscapes.
Oh, wow.
We've forgotten how to imagine, to hope, to envision a different future.
It's like we're so focused on getting to the destination
Right.
that we've forgotten to like enjoy the journey.
The beauty of simply being present, of allowing ourselves to dream. And this actually ties into a really fascinating observation that some critics have made about, like, the philosophical bedrock of Kumar's work.
Okay.
He draws really heavily from Eastern philosophical traditions, especially these concepts of karma and dharma, which, add a whole other layer to this idea of progress that we've been unpacking.
Okay, so for someone like me who's like still wrapping my head around Antaral,
Sure.
break those concepts down. Like, how do they fit into everything we've been talking about?
So think of karma as this, like, universal principle of cause and effect.
Okay.
Every action, every choice we make, it creates this ripple, right?
Right.
And that ripple, it influences not just our own lives, but like the world around us. It's not so much about punishment or reward, but rather this, like, interconnectedness, this
Yeah.
understanding that our actions have consequences that extend far beyond, just our immediate experience.
So like that butterfly effect thing.
Exactly. Like, even the smallest flap of a butterfly's wings can eventually cause a hurricane on the other side of the world.
Wow.
And then you have dharma, which is often translated as duty or purpose.
Right.
But it's like way more nuanced than that.
Okay.
It's about understanding your place in the grand scheme of things,
Okay.
your unique path, and then living in accordance with, your values, your principles, what you believe in.
So true progress, at least in Kumar's view, isn't just about building like the biggest, best, shiniest new thing. It's also about like making sure that those advancements kind of line up with our dharma, our responsibility to ourselves and the world around us.
Exactly. Kumar is using karma and dharma to challenge this very, like, Western, often materialistic idea of progress, right?
Yeah.
He's asking, what good is all this technological advancement if it leads to, like, spiritual bankruptcy?
Right.
If it disconnects us from our true selves, from each other? It's about finding that balance.
Yeah, and it's so interesting how that tension between Like the advancements and like the spiritual well-being really plays out in the characters' lives.
Right.
It's like their souls are yearning for something that all the tech in the world just can't provide.
It's like that feeling of being at a party surrounded by people, but still feeling utterly alone.
Yeah.
And Kumar's characters, even though they live in this like hyper-connected world, they experience that same like profound sense of isolation.
Right.
They're longing for that genuine connection, something to like soothe that existential ache
Yeah.
that lingers within them.
And that's so relatable though, right? Like it's such a human need to feel seen, to feel heard, to feel understood.
Absolutely. But in this pursuit of progress, of efficiency, of building these like perfect sterile societies,
Yeah.
we've kind of lost sight of that very human need for connection.
Yeah.
And what I love is that Kumar doesn't just highlight the problem. He offers these really beautiful glimpses of how characters find those moments of connection,
Oh, okay.
often in the most unexpected places.
Okay.
Like that scene in Boo Beverly where the baker offers Rick, the man who forgets everything, a pastry.
Ah.
Such a simple act of kindness, but in that moment, there's this connection, a spark of recognition.
Yeah.
It reminds us that even in a world that can often feel cold and indifferent, human kindness can still, like, shine through.
It's a good reminder, for sure.
It is.
That progress without compassion, without empathy, is ultimately meaningless.
It's hollow. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if you noticed this too, but I thought it was interesting how often Kumar uses, like, the sea as this metaphor.
Oh, absolutely. Sometimes it's calm and serene. Other times it's turbulent and stormy, much like, the Antaral itself.
It's like that saying, still waters run deep.
Yes.
Like Kumar's sea, it's this powerful force. It's full of hidden depths, unexpected currents.
And you never know what you're going to find beneath the surface.
You really don't.
Right. It can be alluring and terrifying at the same time, much like, our own inner worlds.
It's true.
And just as every drop of water eventually flows into this vast ocean, I think Kumar is suggesting that our individual Antaral, those inner selves we're trying so hard to understand, are all ultimately connected to something much, much larger than ourselves.
It's like we're all part of this grand cosmic dance.
Yes, connected by these invisible threads of shared humanity.
And then there's this other powerful image that he uses, like the crumbling city.
Oh, yes.
Like this constant reminder that no matter how advanced we become, how high our towers reach, it's all still built on these really fragile foundations.
And if we neglect those foundations, our values, our relationships, our connection to something larger than ourselves, everything can crumble in an instant.
It's a scary thought, but it's real.
It is real.
Like it's a call to kind of look beyond the shiny facade of progress and say, okay, what are we building toward and at what cost?
Exactly. Antaral Ki Lehren is a call to action. It's an invitation to engage in a more conscious, a more compassionate way of being in the world.
I like that.
It's about recognizing those anxieties, those uncertainties, the complexities within ourselves, but not being afraid of them.
Yeah.
But using them as fuel for growth, for connection, for building a future where progress encompasses not just the material, but the spiritual, the emotional, the truly human.
So as you, our listeners, kind of delve into the world of Antaral Ki Lehren, keep those questions in mind. What does true progress really mean to you? How do we balance all this amazing technological advancement with our very human need for meaning, for purpose, for connection? And maybe most importantly in this day and age, how do we learn to listen to those whispers of our own souls, those waves of Antaral that are always there, guiding us toward a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us?
That's all for today. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. We'll catch you in the next one, whether it's here on the podcast or over on the next video. Take care and see you soon.